Hey guys and girls, Board now back with you, and on this video I'm going to return to my end of 2019 lists, and this time I'm going to do my top 10 favourite episodes of the year. So I'm going to get straight into it, no honourable mentions this time, but I will just warn you that of course there may be the odd spoiler in these when I'm talking about my top 10. And I'll put links to the episodes in the comments. Now, when I say the episodes, I mean the reviews of the ones I've reviewed. So some of these I haven't reviewed on the channel. But the ones I have, I'll put a link to the full episode review so you can check out my full thoughts. This is just sort of brief thoughts and me summing up why I really like them. So my top 10 episodes of TV this year. Starting off, this might be a bit of a surprise one, but I think it's a show that's worth flagging up in general. And my number 10 is Hannah. And it's the episode Friend, which is the second episode of the first season of Hannah. So Hannah is, of course, the television, I guess, redoing of the film. The film came out about 2011 or around about then anyway, so nearly 10 years ago. Saoirse Ronan, of course, and this is Amazon TV's new version of it, and one of the surprises of the year. I mean, I thought it wasn't perfect, but I thought it had a lot of good qualities. I think it managed to do something quite different to the film. It did have a more of a slow burn thriller type plot, I feel, but it also had some fun character moments, and I think the lead playing Hannah was really, really good as well. She really has good natural sort of instinct. So overall, I was positive on the first season of Hannah. Now I've singled the second episode out because it's the episode where Hannah, goes off on her own and she, hitchhikes across. I think she ends up in Morocco, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've seen the episode, but certainly another country. She's kind of running away from the authorities and doesn't trust her dad at this point. In fact, doesn't know that she does know then he's her dad, but doesn't trust her, basically. And so she ends up, sort of like forming a bond with this new girl. Sophie, her name is, on holiday. She's on holiday with her family, and she's this kind of bored, fed up sort of teen. She's at kind of the difficult stage of adolescence, and she's really, it's a very relatable episode, really, from Sophie's point of view, because they're on holiday and she kind of feels like the odd one left out, and I think she's just at that age where you kind of don't think going on holiday with your family is really that cool. You just want to be off doing your own thing or whatever. So it's really relatable from that point of view, and there's some tensions in the relationship with her mother and father as well. So I think that's playing a part in Sophie's mood. But anyway, so her and Hannah meet up. They start to connect, and they form this attachment, and it's a way for Sophie to escape, and it's the way for Hannah as well to experience really friendship for the first time. Because she's lived this very sort of sheltered life. So I really like the episode because it changes the whole sort of dynamic. I really enjoyed the friendship with Sophie and Hannah, and it just adds something a bit different to the series, a different sort of feel. And I do like this sort of connection and the fact that they're both escaping from something, but obviously something very different, and as the series moves on there is complications there, but yeah, I like the chemistry between them. I think the actress playing Sophie is good as well. So yeah, that's Friend, which is the second episode of Amazon's Hannah. So that's number 10. My number 9 is Glow, and obviously the third season. Netflix is Glow this time, and it is Outward Bounds, which is episode 6. Now I'm not going to say much about this one, and the reason is because obviously I've been reviewing Glow on the channel, and I still have this episode to review. In fact, it'll be the next one I review, so I won't actually say much about it here. All I'll say is that it's one where the whole episode is set in one sort of location, and it's the girls, in between sort of shows where they've got a bit of a break, taking some downtime, and traveling to Nevada. Well, they're already in Nevada, but traveling to like the desert sort of thing, going on like a mountain sort of retreat, if you like. And it's actually, I think, the longest episode in the series in this season. It's about 41 minutes on, but you get some really meaty stuff with all the individual characters. They sort of pair off, and there's a lot of different things brought up about what's been happening early on in the season. But really meaty episode, really enjoyable. Just some great. It really fleshes out a lot of what's happening with the girls and their whole sort of situation. So I won't say much about it because I'm going to review it soon, but liked it a lot this season, as you'll get from my review. I've been really enjoying. So that's Glow Outward Bounds, which is the 6th episode of season 3. That's my number 9. On to number 8. And again, I think this sort of shows then it's not necessarily going to be my top 10 of shows of the year where these episodes are going to come. I am, looking to pick different series. And this episode is from His Dark Materials, the BBC HBO fantasy co-production. And I've gone for episode 4, The Armour. So I've obviously reviewed this on the channel, and it's an important episode because it took me a few episodes to get into this series. It was a bit of a slow start, quite hit and miss the first 3 episodes. But this is where they introduced the bear, and the bear is something which the film version in 2007 really got wrong and really felt like a CGI bear, and but in this the bear looks great, and it's such a great moment how they introduce him and how they sort of reveal him quite slowly, and that they give him like this whole sort of backstory involving the armor, which I really enjoyed. And it's just a great spectacle, and the physicality of the bear, instantly he's like this really fascinating, sort of cute, funny, but obviously very dominant, powerful character. And the characters around him reaction to the bear is just brilliant, and it starts clicking everything into place. Now this is the middle episode obviously of the season, so by the time you get to like the middle of a season, you should be really getting things going for the overall mission and the direction of the season, and this episode did this very well. I think if this episode had been a weaker episode, or I wasn't satisfied, then it would have really given me a lot of doubts about the season moving forward. But this episode really landed. It really worked well, and I think that set the rest of the season on a good sort of keel, if you like. So that's Armour, the 4th episode of His Dark Materials, which is currently showing on the BBC, and there's 1 episode left which airs this Sunday. So that's my number 8. My number 7, going back to Netflix this time, and it is Star Trek Discovery episode. This is episode 7. Episode 7, that's 7. Wow. An arbor for Kuron, this episode is. So episode 7 of the second season, and I really like this one because it gets into the whole, it gets more into Tilly. You get some really good growth for her. I really love the stuff with her and May and how sort of dark and interesting that all gets. I really like the chemistry and what May sort of adds to the sort of plot, and also we go in some very interesting and dark directions for Saru as well. And I think at this point, I think my one concern for the season maybe was some of the Spock stuff, because I wasn't so keen on that. But I think at this stage that's still kind of slowly burning, so it hasn't really become that much of a factor. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed this season, and I think this episode stands out. So yeah, that's a ball for Quran, or yeah, a ball, however you pronounce it, episode 7 of Star Trek Discovery Season 2. Episode 6, again staying with Netflix, showing it's been a pretty damn good year for them again. And I've gone for Reflection, which is the 6th episode of Russian Doll. Now, at the time, we thought Russian Doll was going to be a standalone mini-series, but obviously it's done pretty well for itself, so we are getting a second season, which I'm happy with, because I think there is plenty of room to explore this sort of universe and the characters further. And this one, we really get into the relationship between Alan and Nadia, and we get into his past as well. Again, really good chemistry. He's a fascinating character. They have a really fascinating dynamic because of how different they are, but how they're sort of drawn together and have this shared sort of connection. And yeah, a lot of really good stuff in it. So that's Russian Doll episode 6, and it's called Reflection, and that's on Netflix now. So another one that matches the number, episode 6, and it's 6 on my list. So into the top 5. My 5th choice, at number 5, it's Jessica Jones season 3, aka the Double Half Wapenegger. So this is the one where, of course, Jessica goes back to the main, villain of the series, his hometown, because they're still struggling to really get evidence to get a warrant to search his apartment and stuff. So she sort of takes matters into her own hands, and her and Trish go to his hometown, and you see them trying to uncover dirt, basically. And it's a very interesting background, and the fact that, again, the media presence is really playing a factor in this episode, because it's painting her and Trish in an increasingly bad light, and and we see how it sort of clouds the judgment of people back home. They just don't see how they're, this guy who was so clean cut could be involved in murder or any of the things he says. So it's a really interesting episode, and it has a really great reveal near the end of the way they handle that. And again, a lot of interesting developments, a lot of real tension, and you get some great details of the case. I love the stuff, again, commenting on the media and the continuing sort of ambiguity around Hogarth and the law firm. And I love the wrestling reference, and the nice bit of sparring between Jessica and I actually forget it, but the character played by Jeremy Cobb, I forget his name now, Jeremy Bob. But yeah, the end scene with them is a really nice tease and set up for the season moving forward. But yeah, I really like this season of Jessica Jones. So that's my number 5. My number 4, and this maybe is another surprise, and it's certainly the best episode title of the year, and it comes from the debut season of Euphoria, the HBO teen drama, one of the most talked about shows of the year, and it is the brilliantly titled The Trials and Tribulations of Trying to Pee Whilst Depressed, folks. While depressed. Folks isn't part of the title, I was just adding folks to address you guys. So quite the title, and it really freshened up the season, and I mean it's the 7th episode, so it's the one before the last, and it really cranked things up. It's really stylish. It's the episode where basically the main character Rule is starting to suspect a certain other character and how he's manipulating things. So she kind of goes into detective mode. But what it brilliantly does is, because she's a character who is still, recovering from drug addiction and all the rest of it, is it sort of turns into like this trippy noir type thing where, I mean, I think we know that her suspicions are right, but because she's a recovering and she's very, from the rest of the world's perspective, it could just be her paranoia and her just, being more desperate and not really in the right state of mind. But it really goes with that premise and runs with it. It's really playful and funny because you see her dressed in noir style clothes, smoking cigarettes. There's some really funny lines. The sort of absurdity of it is what really makes the episode, but it's really stylish. Again, another brilliant performance by Saldana in it. She's really one of the great up-and-coming actresses, but it ends in a very powerful way as well. The direction in this episode is some of the best direction I've seen on TV this year. The music as well is very sort of moody and atmospheric. I love the stuff at the back end of the episode with obviously Rule's sort of on and off girlfriend and her in a hotel and just her state of mind and the emotion she's going through, and just the ending shot of her looking over the landscape and the way it connects her and Rule, but obviously they're in different cities. It's a really provocative episode, beautiful style. Yeah, it's really. I mean, I had some mixed feelings on the first season of Euphoria, but this episode was tremendous, really impressive. I recommend you guys check it out. And I will repeat the title. It is The Trials and Tribulations of Trying to Pee While Depressed. And that's episode 7 of the first season, and there will be another season to come. So into the top 3 now, and my number 3, a show I've waxed lyrical about, and you can see all my reviews on the channel, and that is Unbelievable, episode 5. Just episode 5 this time, because there's no titles for these, just the numbers. So just to remind you, this is the one where the sort of main case really gets sort of cracking. You get the Karen character going to Kansas, and some important stuff there. Just the fact that she's given this book, which it's revealed to her that sort of rapists have been reading, as a way to kind of know the signs for how they could be caught out. So it's kind of a way for them to avoid arrest, if you like. So that's a really disturbing bit of commentary on our times and this age of information. But yeah, that's an important sort of tool for Karen, if you like, in her case. I also like, again, the way it plays with the gender things and makes some striking points in the episode, like the scene with her in the cafe, for example, where she readdresses the balance a bit as you see this guy perving on like a couple of girls who come in. And it's just the fact that she gets to use her weight, her position to stick up for these girls and turn the gaze on the guy, sort of. Or I mean, not in that way, but just in the sense that, you know, there is someone watching you and there is someone on their side, so don't mess with them, don't step over the market, pal. So moments like that are tremendous and empowering. And we get further important details. So Lily, one of the previous victims, we hear about how her case was dismissed by a male detective, and importantly we get further stuff with Marie and really how the case and her situation is such a load on her, and the way she just feels so small and paranoid and suspicious of sort of every male she comes into contact with. So some really, really powerful stuff, and the direction once again is on point. Unbelievable, one of the standouts of the year, of course. So yeah, that's episode 5, which I've picked for my number 3. So on to the final 2, and my second favourite episode of the year. It comes from the second season of Killing Eve, and it is called Do You Know How to Dispose of a Dead Body? A question on all our lips, I'm sure, and another great episode title. So this is the first episode actually of the second season, and it just impressed me a great deal because it really had a lot of work to do following on the back of such a good debut season last year. And it's one of those where maybe if the first episode didn't get off to a great start, you know, there were some issues, you know, it could have potentially dragged down the rest of the series, but it just got off to a flying start. And I mean, you have to realise they did change showrunner as well, sort of freshened it up in a sense, but that doesn't always pay off. Quite often when you lose the original showrunner, it has a negative effect on the series. So the fact it got off to a flying start, we're immediately inside the character's world, we're immediately moving things forward, doing interesting things again with Valhalla, just this fascinating stuff with her and the guy in the hospital, and just how playful Jodie Comer is, and how she plays this many different sides of the characters, and I just love the stuff with them, because although she's essentially using the guy for her own sort of purposes and is being manipulative, at the same time there is some sense of humanity there is some sense of a bond, and this odd sort of sense of her actually doing what in her mind at least is sort of best for him. Really fascinating stuff, and again it does a great job of really setting the tone for the season and for the dynamic of both the main characters. Yeah, it was a tricky thing to pick up with the way the season 1 ended on a cliffhanger. But it really got off to a flying start. Brilliant direction, brilliant music, and I mean, arguably season 2 was very good, but I think I would probably say that it never quite repeated the greatness of this episode. It was a really stunning opening. So that's Do You Know How to Dispose of a Dead Body, the opening episode of Killing Eve Season 2, and Season 3 will be on the way sometime soon, but that's my number 2. my number one episode of the year, and no surprise, it comes from Stranger Things 3, which of course was my show of 2019, narrowly beating out Unbelievable, another Netflix show which I mentioned before. But here we go. My choice for Stranger Things 3, my episode of 2019, is Chapter 7 from the third series. It's called The Bite. And I like this one for many reasons. I mean, this is when the series is really kicking into a high gear. It's where you've got all the separate sort of factions, but they're all being given really meaty stuff to do. And the pacing is really on point because they're slowly being brought together. And it's just really great writing. I think this is an episode that brings Will back into focus and makes him important again. It explores his powers a lot and how dangerous they can be, but that's also a nice metaphor for sort of the stage of adolescence he's at. We get some great monsters once again and sort of good creature effects. And the tag team of Dustin and Erica. Now, I'm still to review this episode, so I won't say that much, but they're a fantastic combination. I'm really glad that Erica got more involvement in this season, having impressed in cameos last season. Her and Dustin just have such good chemistry, and I really like the way they sort of rope Robin and Steve into the whole plot and investigation. And of course, this is the beautiful moment, one of my scenes of the year on TV. If I was doing a scenes of the year for 2019, the scene where Robin and Steve are the bathroom scene, basically in the cinema. And Robin comes out to Steve, reveals she's a lesbian. It's absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's wonderful for two reasons. One, because it's just a really tender, sensitive way. It's handled brilliantly, it really sells it very well, and it is very sensitive and very I'm not sure the word I'm looking for, but it does it justice. It feels like a big deal, and it really treats it with the seriousness it can, because it coming out, especially at that age, it is a big deal for someone. The other reason it's a really brilliant scene is just because of the way they play with your expectations and subvert them. Because I mean, all season I think there was speculation on the internet. It looks like Steve and Robin are gonna get together. They're lining them up. And I mean, in some ways, even if they did go the predictable route with them, if it's a good relationship, if you buy into it, then that in itself wouldn't be a problem. But I think there's always that thing where sometimes you see it coming a mile off, so it's kind of, it feels a bit cliche, even if you don't mind it, because they're both such likable characters. But they totally subvert that. This is handled brilliantly, because I'll be amazed if anyone saw the fact that Robin turned, she comes out as being a lesbian, and the way the whole thing's handled is brilliant, because the way she starts talking in the scene, it sort of suggests that then she is confessing to Steve, then she has feelings for him, and it's played so well because he makes it clear he has feelings for her, and it plays out like she's gonna say the same, and so it totally subverts your expectation, and it's tender, I think is the word I was looking for. It's a really tender scene, and they just nail it, and it's really well handled, and the way he reacts is really great. And it just, I think it hits home one of the important themes of the show, the fact that it is all about friendships and that sort of bond, and the bonds which are just so important in life, and which no amount of evil can overcome, if you like. um, and we see a beautiful friendship at the end of this sort of or the end of that scene, because Steve is so cool about it, and it's a really sweet moment between them. And it's almost like, yeah, they could have gone the cliche route of them ending up being boyfriend girlfriend, and I'm sure we would have enjoyed it. But it's actually a more tender, more moving sort of relationship and scene, the way it did go and the way they handled it. Often a friendship is so much more. So wonderful scene. I liked it a lot. And we get some great stuff again with Hooper, Alexei, and Joyce, and their sort of slow burning plot, and the stuff at the fairgrounds. So really strong episode of Stranger Things season 3, which was consistently really great throughout, in my opinion. Potentially the best season of the show yet, which is really saying something. And there you go, a double winner for me. It's my show of the year, and it also had the best episode of the year that I saw, in my opinion. So I went for episode 7 of Stranger Things 3, called The Bite, my episode of the year. If you want to list some of your episodes of the year, please do so in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you're a new viewer to the channel, and I'll be back with some more lists soon. And the next lists I do are going to be my TV and films, my TV shows and films of the last 10 years, so getting into the end of decade stuff. But thanks for watching. I'll see you guys again soon. Goodbye.